Guys, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Code Connectors Saturday meetup for the month of October. As I said in my little intro earlier, this is a kickoff event for Hacktoberfest, something we've never tried before. But I think we're saying that just about every month. Every month we're trying something we've never tried before. So that's my privilege to be around people like RJ and Corey and JC and so many other volunteers and leaders that make this thing what it is. For those that aren't on our Slack, don't really know what the heck is a Code Connector, we're a nonprofit group started here in Memphis, spread throughout the country. We're all about connecting people with the resources they need to learn tech and get started in their first job in tech, particularly if they come from an underrepresented group or minority, or if they are making a career transition. And so we're glad to have you. I'm gonna be looking back and forth because people are continually coming in. But this is very exciting. I do want to shout out our sponsors. Our sponsors are Code Crew, a boot camp here in the Memphis area. They show us a lot of love. We love those guys. The Memphis Technology Foundation, we have a fiscal relationship with them. We get a lot of support from them and a lot of mentorship. Postmark, an email service, provides us with pizzas. Back in the day when we used to actually meet in person, you know, we haven't figured out how to distribute pizzas virtually yet. That's a challenge. But they used to give us pizzas or money for pizzas for our in-person event. So I'm looking forward to getting that and getting that free pizza again. And here recently, drum roll, we have partnered with JetBrains. And JetBrains is giving us the love. We are now an official JetBrains user group. And so every month we have one of these things, we're going to be able to give away one professional, whatever, a license for a 1 year of JetBrains IDE products, which means today,
amazing.
Today we're going to give away a free one. We're going to do a giveaway. The only requirements: must be present to win, and you got to be on our Slack, because Slack, that's like our heartbeat. That's where we talk and we hang out and talk, you know, code and the weather and, you know, how many times my dog's going to escape the backyard. So Slack is where it goes down. You got to be on the Slack. So we're going to do that today. We're going to give away a free 1 year license. Happy to give that away for you guys and glad to see you. That being said, this is totally not my show. I'm about to pass the power over to RJ Beer so I can get the list of everybody's names down. And what we'll do right before we do the breakout thing later, RJ, I'll do the giveaway and then we'll break out, and that's that. So y'all give it up for RJ Beers. That's my guy. Even though he lives in Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, hiring a town crier.
Oh boy, yeah, you had to call it out on the recording.
It's a volunteer position. I'll let him give you the details.
They are. We are. Yeah. I have to stop separating myself from this area. Yeah, that's a little tidbit right there Lawrence shared. My town, just some news article I saw, they're hiring a town crier, and the only responsibilities are that you have a loud voice that can project, and you like kick off the farmer's market on the weekends in the summer, a couple other events. I'm like, oh my gosh, where do I live? But yeah, I guess it's a fun, quirky place around here. We also have some software developers like myself. So to get back on topic, I'm going to share some slides that can kind of guide me through what we're going to go over today. And I haven't used Google Slides with full screen and Zoom, so I'm going to try that out and see what you guys can see. Lawrence, can you make sure I have the ability to share?
Just clicked it on.
Awesome. All right, let's see if this works out. Is it full screen for everybody? Awesome. All right. So yeah, this Hacktoberfest kickoff. We're going to get into a few things. Just to introduce myself, RJ Beers. I am the website manager for Code Connector. What does that mean? We're going to get into. Website manager, it has something to do with open source, has something to do with Hacktoberfest. So I'm going to tie it all together for you today. Just an overview. I think Lawrence covered a lot of this, but what we're going to hit. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, about open source, what that is, what it means for Hacktoberfest. I'm going to just quickly go over Hacktoberfest for people who haven't gone to the website and read about it, signed up. I'll just cover some quick details. And then we're going to cover projects that are available within Code Connector, kind of championed within Code Connector, that are available for people to contribute to. We can talk about what else people can contribute to as well outside of Code Connector. And then we're going to make a pull request. So I'll share my full screen and we'll do one together just to make sure everyone knows what goes into that. And then lastly, we'll do the breakout rooms. where hopefully some of those projects that are based out of Code Connector, we can have those leaders lead some breakout room to talk through that project some more in detail, and maybe make pull requests together there as well. That will be the end of the meetup. So there isn't an expectation that we'll come back together. So if you get into a breakout room and you decide, okay, I'm no longer interested, or it's the end of the afternoon for me, feel free to break off from there. All right, so what does a website manager do for an organization full of software developers or engineers? Kind of odd. Why do we need a website manager when everyone can write code? So I do have the keys to the castle. I love this part, that I manage the GitHub organization, membership, teams, repositories. If you ever want to contribute something to Code Connector, get in touch with me. We had a few people do that recently, and those are some of the projects we'll get into. How do websites work? You got DNS that needs to be looked up and then routed. I actually have the keys to that as well. It's pretty cool. And then more importantly, I act as a maintainer for the Code Connector projects, or project, the website. And we'll get into what it means to maintain a code, like an open source code repository, next. I advocate for member participation in open source community. I pulled this one right off of when we decided what the website manager was responsible for. This one's a direct quote, advocating for member participation in open source. So hey, Hacktoberfest, like, this is perfect. I'm advocating for everyone to join in and do some stuff. So I'm meeting my requirements by doing a meetup like this, right? And this is the kind of stuff I love to do. And growing a community of coding mentorship. So maybe we'll do a bit of this today with some of the leaders that have those repositories. Or we can do it together as one big group. We'll get to the end and see what people are interested in working on. But we want everyone to feel like once you've learned something within Code Connector, without it, share it with people in the community. Share what you know and become a mentor yourself. It'll help you grow. It'll help everyone else grow. I'm all about that. Yeah, so I maintain a repository, at least the website. What does that mean? I encourage others to contribute. So we had some contributions recently. I like to thank people because it means I'm not directly making all these changes. I do directly contribute some code, but in a perfect world, I'm not doing all of it. And it wouldn't be a very good website if I did all of it. I think it's good to get diverse opinions, diverse coding styles and ideas, different people on different devices testing the website, seeing what works. This is how we build better software. And this has a direct parallel to Hacktoberfest because our website is open source, just like React is open source, or some of the more major pieces of software that we use day to day. So as a maintainer, okay, I'm encouraging others to contribute. I'm also ultimately responsible for documenting onboarding steps. I want people to feel like our code is approachable. And you'll see if you open up a major repository like Vue or React, you're going to find some pretty detailed steps to get into that code because they want it to be approachable. They want more people joining that community and contributing. And that could be things like issue templates or pull request templates, just to like make it easy for people to just jump in and contribute. It doesn't have to be code contribution. It can just be, hey, I found a bug. And standards, so you want to standardize some of those things. You want to have code of conducts. You want to have coding styles even. And someone has to ultimately make decisions on that. It can be a democratic process, but in the end, someone's got to have an ultimate say and kind of steward that, those standards as well as the vision. Where are we going with this repo? What do we want to do? Right now, our website is a Jekyll app. If we wanted to change that to something else, I'm sure I'd have some opinions on that and try and lead the direction on it. I'd love to have contributions from people. What do you want this to be? What do you think it would be beneficial? But I do have responsibility to make sure that that vision is out there and documented so that you all know what we're trying to work toward. And again, all this applies to every open source repository. And of course, reviewing pull requests and kind of guiding that evolution. But this isn't just for the maintainer. Maintainers are ultimately responsible or trying to manage it, but these are also ideas for everyone as you go into Hacktoberfest. What could you be contributing to any repository, our website or anything else? Are the onboarding steps documented? Is there a README? Is there a contribution.md file that tells people how they can get started? Are there templates for pull requests that you think could be beneficial to, filing bugs, or if you've used a website before and you go to file a bug and it doesn't ask you, hey, what are the steps to reproduce? Well, a lot of people aren't going to include that, and it's not going to be a very useful bug ticket to file. So it's good to have those things. If you find a repository out there that lacks some of these, those are great ideas to do pull requests during Hacktoberfest or after. And generally, I just want to recap what this event is all about. It's a month-long event encouraging open source contributions, specifically through GitHub. DigitalOcean is leading this, and the way they track your progress and completion is through joining your GitHub account. And so hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com is where, if you haven't already, go there, sign up. It'll ask you to SSO with your GitHub account, and you just say allow, and then you'll have an account. It'll start tracking how many pull requests you've made in the month. We've also got a Slack channel created within our Slack, as Lawrence said, codeconnector.io/Slack, and there's going to be a link on that page to join the Slack if you're not in there. So the idea of the event is, I should say, the main idea that people hear when they hear Hacktoberfest is, I make 4 pull requests and I get a t-shirt. But the spirit of the event is what I said above, which is a month-long event encouraging open source contributions and bringing attention to it. If anybody's active on Twitter or news, you'll see that this year has been crazy for Hacktoberfest with spam. Like, people, I think some YouTuber put up a nice, easy tutorial on how quick and easy you can make pull requests that'll get you credit. And so, I don't know, 100,000 people went and made improving the README and just added this is an amazing project instead of this is the project. And those get marked spam, and I'll tell you right now, you're probably gonna get knocked out of the Hacktoberfest and on some list that people aren't gonna want to work with you anymore if you're making pull requests like that. So let's stick to the spirit of it. Let's focus on quality contributions over quantity. It's 4 pull requests. Think about that, 1 contribution a week for the 4 weeks in October. It's not a huge ask. These contributions can be as simple as, there's a missing README. You can find typos. Those are quality contributions. When you see typos, don't open a pull request for each individual typo. Go through the repository, read it all, find typos, and open a pull request for all of them. Quality over quantity. That's what we're shooting for here. And if you've never done Hacktoberfest before, or if you've never contributed to open source, you maybe don't have a GitHub account, or you have a GitHub account but you really haven't used it for anything, Hacktoberfest, digitalocean.com/details. And if you scroll to the bottom, there's a beginners section. There's tons of amazing links in there. I'm going to pull that open, actually. There's some awesome stuff. Yeah, so they've got 10-minute video to get you started, get you familiar with making your first pull request. We're going to do that together today. They've got links for specifically websites looking to aggregate issues that are like, hey, what am I supposed to contribute to? Well, here's some super easy ones. A lot of times repositories will tag their issues with specific things to make them easy to find. So here's some great websites to find those issues. I'll show you how to do that as well. And then if you're just not comfortable with this, there's some kind of resources down here about how to get started, how this could help your career, getting used to GitHub and forking repositories, making pull requests. There's reference materials for everyone. So I want to just recap again about like why you should do this and why you shouldn't do this. If you're thinking that this event and then the rest of the month is going to get you a free t-shirt, beef up your resume, and you're going to be this open source master after this, like that's not what this is about. You might get a free t-shirt, but if that was the goal, like I can tell you there's other ways to get free t-shirts that are a lot easier and a lot more straightforward. Instead, do it because this is a great chance to get familiarity with Git, to work with other software engineers, to get that confidence that then when you're in those interviews, you know from experience what it is to put up a pull request, get feedback, talk to the person providing that feedback, negotiate on what the changes should be made, make those changes, understand diffing and you know pushing up additional changes, and then that awesome feeling when it gets merged and knowing that you made a difference in that code. Best practices. So maintainers are holding standards. If they see pull requests where the titles aren't correct or they don't reference the issue that they're solving, they'll help you. They'll say, hey, you know, I'm tagging it with this, or can you tell me what issue you're solving with this? It doesn't look like you added a test. Like, please add a test. They'll leave a line like that. You'll say, oh, dang, yeah, I don't usually write tests. And they'll say, okay, well, maybe I can help you. Or maybe because it's Hacktoberfest and there's too much going on, they won't. And that's where working on a code connector repository during this month, we're going to have extra attention to help you write those tests. But, you know, the idea is to get more familiarity with those best practices and working with others. That's going to go a long way on your resume and your confidence. And also because DigitalOcean went and made this kind of a publicity thing that people are jumping in and all spending time now in this month, there's a lot of people who are trying this out for the first time. You're like with good company. It can be really intimidating making your first pull request or contributing to React. And this is, you've never contributed to anything before. Let's take this easy. We're all here doing this for our first time. It's the kickoff event. Well, let's all learn together. And it's a lot safe space right now. Not saying it's not safe to go open a pull request or open an issue to React or Vue or some other major repository. But it can be really intimidating, and now's the time to get over that hump of fear and intimidation and just get in there and try and get a few pull requests created and see where it goes. And also, because we have some repositories within Code Connector, you can get to know more people in Code Connector. So work with others in this group to make some changes, get some feedback. Meet me. I don't know everyone in this group, so I'd love to network a bit. And the other project leads, you know, you'll open issues and you'll drop comments and someone's going to actually respond and there's a real person on the other side. So it's good to remember that during this event, we're actually talking to humans. It's not like, it's not code. You're putting out a comment out there with open source and you're actually talking to humans that have lives. At the beginning of this event, we were talking about kids and dogs. It's like the people on the other side that are responding to you and giving you feedback, those are real people. So this is a great time to meet those people and get to know them. And so that then the rest of the year, you can build on that. So with that, I want to jump into some of the repositories we have. I've been talking and nobody's really said anything. I'm totally open if people have questions or comments as I go. So maybe I'll pause before I open anything else up if anyone has questions.
I'll break the silence. I don't have a question, but I joined late, so I'll break the silence as I don't know, penance or something. I don't know what the word is, but hello.
No questions, but I already found my first pull request. I already know what I'm doing. I gotta update my Twitter handle on the site. It's wrong right now.
Awesome.
I'll make one comment. So RJ mentioned that there was kind of a political hubbub about all these spam PRs for Hacktoberfest this year. There was a response that was posted by DigitalOcean. If all you want is a T-shirt and you don't want to put in the work to make substantial pull requests, they're making it easier to get a T-shirt without doing anything this year. You can go look at their site, and they're trying to cut down on the spam load because there's a lot of big maintainers that have lost a lot of time trying to field these spam PRs, but you can get a free T-shirt without the PRs if that's all you care about.
I also want to say that I think this last week I've been doing a lot of research about trying to get a job in tech. So if that is something that you are trying to do, open source contribution is a really big thing. This is one, I think RJ mentioned, this is one of those ways where you can learn a lot and do a lot and put on your resume and have talking points for the interview. So if you have that, like that imposter syndrome where I'm not a developer because I have never done work, I'll work as a developer. But here is a way you can work as a developer and go into an interview saying I have done work, I have worked with professionals, and they have accepted my work. So this is a great opportunity.
Yeah, I should have had a slide on that one. That's a great one, JC. I mean, I'll say in the past when I've interviewed, I've asked some questions like, tell me about a time that you've had to debate a technical approach with another engineer. And it's all about seeing, what your approach was, how you worked through that with conversation, diagrams, code, and then, how was the decision agreed upon? That's what happens daily in pull requests, right? And so you can open a pull request with that's non-documentation or it's an actual functional change or maybe it's just adding a test to something. And if someone doesn't like the way you did it, but you did solve the problem, then you're going to get experience with exactly that question, answering that question. So there's a lot of examples like that by a couple of these bullets that I noted here about getting those best practices, working with others, and collaborating. So yeah, +1 on that.
I'll comment on that, just a little blurb that, if you get into a conversation, whether it's an open source maintainer or it's somebody at work or wherever, when you get to I don't like the way you did that, there's like a 10% chance in that scenario that you did something wrong, and more of a 90% chance of I would have done it this other way, or we've made a decision that we want to stick to this one style. So don't feel like somebody's going to call you out for being wrong. There was a decision made and we wanted to take it this other way. So don't feel bad about any of that. It's always discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it is that if you don't go through that process, then you might shy away thinking that you did something wrong, or you think that you did it right and they're wrong. But that conversation and trying to understand both point of views and coming to an agreement, that's the super important part. And so I think Hacktoberfest, just to bring it back home, is a great time to open some pull requests on things that maybe you read up on and you feel like you're familiar with, but you are not the one who's been writing code in this repository for a while. And so you're going to try your best, and then those things might come up. And then working through that, don't give up once the pull request is created and they say, come back with feedback. Follow up, have that conversation, and get it merged. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. If they say, hey, we didn't like it, that's okay. But it's worth trying to go through that process. Okay. Sorry, I've got a cold today. I should have grabbed some water or something. Throat's real scratchy. All right, so let's go through some of the repos that we've got in Code Connector space that are all open for contributions right now. We've got 3 that are kind of they're all part of our space. That doesn't mean that across all of Code Connector, there's only 3 repos people at Code Connector are working on. So I just want to preface that I'm going to give people a chance in a few minutes to shout out some things that they're working on that they might want some help with. But there's the Code Connector website. There's a Python unit test repo talking about best practices for unit testing, and we'll get into that. And then there's a Chrome extension, which in case people haven't seen, I've got it here. Oh, does it not show up when I'm on Zoom? Might not show up. Okay, there's a Chrome extension that, oh yeah, just took a minute. So Chrome extension that shows all of our events, and it's got some animations and things, and you can link out to the RSVPs. That itself is an awesome one JC came up with, and that's open for contributions as well. So let's just jump in a little bit. So if people are interested in front-end HTML, there's not much JavaScript at all in this website. It's a Jekyll app, which is a pretty straightforward static site generator with great support from GitHub. So it's real easy to get started with, a couple steps. I've done my best to try and do some contribution docs here for folks to understand, what's expected when making these pull requests. Super easy though, website. And I've got 5 issues open right now. I think one of them's in the middle of being fixed. I'm not sure. Well, we'll do one today maybe. Accessibility issues, functional changes on the website. So there's a couple things here, a couple different groups of things. And then when we do the breakout room, I'm totally open for ideas and improvements that people have seen that they want to make to the website. Let's get those out. They might not be here in issues, but we can make issues for them, or we can just go straight ahead and make pull requests for them. We've got the Python repo. Sorry, really scratchy throat. Just a second. Okay, so Corey and Dennis, I convinced to move this one over to Code Connector space. Really appreciate it. As it says here, it's an introduction to Python testing and code coverage. Corey or Dennis, you want to say a few words here?
I haven't seen Dennis. This was originally his idea. We had gotten into talking about kind of test-driven development stuff, and one thing that I personally have issues, I've not been in a good test-driven development team in my career. I haven't been professional in Python at any point in my career. So me and Dennis got talking about this a good bit. What we're looking for, this is going to be kind of a tinker toy to help demonstrate Python test-driven development, and particularly the Python unit test module that's included in the Python primary core library. We're discussing having like different demo projects that are within this repository to where we'll have the tests and the primary source code in here. They'll probably stay like kata style stuff, or real generic puzzle stuff that I'm sure everybody's done, stuff like Fibonacci or what have you. But that's going to be the main thing here. It's going to be a lot of room that if there's something that you want to do for a little easy demo project, we could probably fit it inside this repository and help you to become more of a direction governing person in this, not just picking issues that somebody else has designed.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, I think this issue here could be expanded. Maybe breakout room, we can talk about that some. Additional utility functions, some interview questions, maybe pick a function that's kind of algorithmic and then write unit tests for it to show that it works. There could be many of those functions, so we could duplicate this issue for different ideas people want to implement. Actually, before we move on, I want to pick on Corey a little bit here because I think it's a great example for people to learn from. This is totally normal and an awesome PR. So we've got a PR to solve one of the issues. Number one is we need a README. And the README I think we said there's not a whole lot of, okay, yeah. So we think that that's all that's needed in the README. And I said, hey, yeah, describe the README as well. A little bit of conversation on the issue. And then we went straight to code and started talking about it there. So the initial pull request does exactly what's needed. There's a README file, descriptions there, like discussed in there. All those commands are here. And when I was reviewing, I tried following the steps, and it didn't work for me. And so now the conversation that we were just talking about is started. Corey can tell me, hey, you're wrong, RJ. You didn't set your environment up right. Or I can say, well, you didn't tell me what I needed to set up. And it can be matters of perspective, but we're going to hassle each other over this pull request, and hopefully it'll be productive, and we'll get a better README out of it. That's the whole point, is to improve the pull request and get it merged with quality. Yeah.
There's
That's the
another
worst
thing on there that I want to poke at. If people aren't really familiar with Git, if you go back to the files, or that top piece there, I'm using a JetBrains product called IntelliJ I'm using PyCharm because this is a Python project. So there wasn't a gitignore file in this project yet. I went ahead and for my .idea directory, which is something that all JetBrains products use, unless we have other people unless you have like a team that's all using the same IDE, you really want to strip out whatever's IDE specific in that. And the gitignore tells your local Git to ignore the files, and in this case it's in that directory or in any given particular file. If you had like names and passwords in a file, then you'd want to make sure that you masked that and that they didn't get in. There are default gitignore things that can be had. There's a GitHub project for gitignore, and they have a gitignore file for pretty much every language, many different IDEs that are easy stuff that could be grabbed. I did not go that far. I think it's the gitignore IO maybe. No, there you go, GitHub/gitignore. Pick a language. I mean, right now we're talking about Python. There's a Python gitignore there, and it breaks down different tools that you may or may not be using. Different, all kinds of different stuff here, and you can kind of cut the bits that you may or may not need. If you're using Scrapey, there's a Scrapey directory there that it masks. If you've got environment variable stuff or whatever it is, this for any project helps. For me, I want to make sure that my IDE stuff doesn't fall into somebody else's repository if they don't want it there. The only time I would expect that to be okay is if I was working on a professional team and we had agreed that we're all using the same IDE. So then there's going to be some stuff that even in that scenario, I don't want everything in my idea directory to be in there, because RJ is not going to have his PyCharm set up the same way that I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you'll see some repositories have these, some don't. And you can kind of, if you end up adding new files to Git, it's something you should consider before you add them. Think, is this specific to my machine, or is this part of the code itself? And these gitignores can help, just like you said. Okay, we got one more that was within Code Connector. Let me jump back over to that. Our Chrome extension. All right, JC, you want to say a few words about this?
Sure. Hey everybody. This Chrome extension, the idea behind it was it's a full stack app, and the idea behind it was to display upcoming Code Connector meetups through a Google Chrome extension. For myself, we have 7 tech meetups a month for Code Connector, and I also try to see a lot of other virtual events. And over time, I got confused and lost because I was going to so many virtual events during COVID. So the idea behind the Chrome extension was to how can I make it to where I can, within a click of a button, quickly see all the upcoming meetups. So I'm looking for help with it, and how can I make it more professional in the code and also in the functionality. And also, so how to make it more easier to maintain. Because at the moment, I have to go through meetup.com and write, copy and paste a lot of links and whatnot to try to keep it updated for each upcoming month. So functionality like that, anything to help make it better. But the main thing is how to make this the go-to resource for meetups for our community. How to make this better for our people in our community.
And you have this on the Chrome web store where anybody can install this, right?
Yes, it's installed. So you just go to Chrome web. If you got Google Chrome, go to the Chrome web store, and you can find it. Or you can just go to this GitHub, and there's a link on it right there. Right there, you click on it, and it automatically takes you to the Chrome store where you can install it on your machine.
Yeah, this one's awesome. And like you said, it's a React app. So if anyone wants a little bit of experience with React, it's a very basic app just to display a few things, calls one API to get the data. JC and I had a lot of fun dealing with time zones to localize this because I'm on the East Coast, you guys are on Central. So, and then you got daylight savings time changes about a month from now. So a lot of fun with that. So if anyone's interested, this is a really cool app to get some experience on the front end.
I expect an issue be raised when time change happens.
It's all solved.
Covered. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a wonderful app to get experience on, because it is full stack. You got a back end you using Netlify function, and then you got a front end that have to be loaded to your Chrome store. So you get experience on both ends.
Yeah, and I'll say that there aren't any tests. So if anyone wants to add tests, just get some experience writing some tests. That'd be cool. I think I started some code locally just to test the Netlify function a little bit. But yeah, awesome.
I give you some user feedback on it, right? So I'm using the Edge browser, the new one from Microsoft, but it can connect to this Google Chrome store. So I went through that to add extension. And I came in there, I started typing code connect, and I got about that far, and it popped up with connector meetup. So it's in there, and it works in Edge. Yes, there's some good feedback for you.
Awesome.
It's pretty nice. It popped up. It's looking good. I've got it loaded in my browser now.
Awesome. So those are the three we have within official Code Connector space. Does anyone want to give a shout out for a personal project?
ARJ, it's Coriano. I did want to mention this. Last year was my first time working with Hacktober, and I kind of worked on those projects solo and kind of went through the process of connecting with the maintainer. But this year, I wanted to focus on peer programming. So with this event, I plan to set up a Calendly, the app, and I would love to actually do peer programming with anyone that's interested in working on one of the code connector issues, as well as Hacktober in general. So if there's something even outside of code connector that you want to contribute to and you want to peer program on that, I'd love to be a part of that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I'll be plugging my calendar, and yeah, if you're open to do some peer programming, I'd love to connect with you guys and work on a couple projects.
Awesome. I'm going to pick on Corey one more time because he's got a cool repo that I also want to show. It's not in the Code Connector space, but he's got in his personal space DataPy. And as he says in his nice README here, intuitive, lightweight, file-based database and query tool. So he's building the database with files and Python, which is pretty neat. Anyone wants to get some experience thinking about database level stuff, Python code, connect with him. It looks like there's 9 issues, so that's the most out of all the rest we have so far. Yeah, lot of vision here and what he wants to do with it. Some neat opportunities. Anybody have some personal projects? Whoops. Personal projects you want to talk about?
I've got one that I've been working on off and on for a couple of months, and I'm trying to get it to a point in October for Hacktoberfest to where I'd like really want to share publicly with people. It's called Dev Desk, and I don't know how many people are on Twitter, but a lot of times on Twitter, people will post a picture of their like desk setup, and then they have this really long thread of a bunch of people post. But then if you want to go back and like scan through them or look at them, it's either hard to find the post or it's hard to kind of like actually see the images that you're looking at. So I was creating a site called Dev Desk where people can log in with their Twitter account, upload a picture of their desk setup, and then have that as like a gallery that people can look through in one place. So I've got a repo on my GitHub if anybody's interested in looking at that too. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, you win for most issues ready to be worked on. So yeah, definitely connect with James. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, the only thing I've done a pretty poor job of actually really defining those. So if anyone looks at an issue and has questions, feel free to reach out and let me know and I can explain.
I mean, I think that's a great like note for everyone though, that if you look out in the wild for these issues, you might have just an idea. And it's really common for people to say, hey, file an issue. And you just say like, I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's still conversation. And that's how you develop the details and the scope. And that can sometimes be more defined by the people who go to implement it. Because if you're going to spend your time, then you get to define how much time you're going to spend. And with that time, how much you can get done.
Triage is something that not just the maintainer or the developer or the person that opened the issue is needed for, right? If you have the time, sometimes I've found that just being a developer, looking at some issues, you go, okay, well, obviously these 3 questions need to be answered. So you can drop in and ask those 3 questions of the person that submitted it, and it'll save the developers and the maintainers time. And, if it gets to the point where you feel like you're able to pick it up and work on it, then do. But sometimes just asking the questions can be really helpful.
Yeah, as playing that maintainer role, I love to see this kind of stuff happening where it's like, okay, we've got an issue. I respond, but then someone else responds, and then we got a conversation going where it's not just me saying what it should be. And we got a bunch of opinions going on here for what should happen on this issue. So I think that's great. Okay, the next thing I was going to do, let's see, 45 minutes in. I'm going to try and do a super basic version of this one. Make a pull request that just literally adds a Slack icon to the website, just so we can go through the motions of what goes into that. Let me do a new share so you got the full screen. Oh, let me get rid of that, get rid of this. Okay. I'm going to try and go at a weird pace here. I'm going to go slow enough for people to see this, but in case this gets boring, people can shout. So I've got the code connector repo checked out. So if not, I would do a git clone. And if you don't have any nice and easy ways to do it, you can go here and it'll give you the thing to copy. You just click that button, it automatically copies it. So I've got that cloned. I won't have to do this command here. And then, so I'm going to start a new branch, git checkout -b to create a new branch for Slack icon. And then I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code for this one. So for those who don't know, this issue is about not having a really easy way to find Slack on our Code Connector website. You see that I put this link here in the slides that I talked about. But even that, you go here and it's like, okay, our online community, it's easy. Where's the Slack? You gotta like keep scrolling. Okay, I hope this takes us to Slack. Like, oh, thank God, because it really isn't obvious that Slack is there. So we could do a couple things, and one of those is that down here we have all of our social things. We got our YouTube, our calendar, our LinkedIn, and everything. We can add a Slack icon here so that people can easily find that as well. We can do more than that, but I'm going to do that just for sake of time and to quickly show something here. So this website, let's get our bearings here. Sorry, I keep having to move the images out of the way for Zoom. This website, just to get our bearings a little bit, is, like I said, a Jekyll app. So it's going to automatically try and compile all of these HTML files based on some configuration. Configuration is super basic. There's nothing too interesting happening. Jekyll has conventions. So by default, it's going to grab every single one of these HTML files and try and process it as a specific template. So it's going to have like a variable title that'll get injected into the title with Montgomery for the Montgomery page, and all these will become pages. Since we want to change something that's on every single page at the very bottom, we've got to find out where all these icons are. And so we could kind of inspect the page here and try and find the Facebook icon. Let's see, a little slow on this. Got an old laptop I'm using here. Oh, that's why. Let's do some mobile testing. So we can inspect the page, try and find out what kind of code we've got here. Looks like we've got like Font Awesome, Twitter. So I can maybe like search for an FA Twitter. That's a Font Awesome Twitter, so that gets injected. We can find out where that is in the code. And then we want to put something next to it. It's like there's a default layout that's going to be on every single page. We've got David's Twitter, Knoxville, Memphis. They've got some, so individuals have Twitters, and then this one looks like the right one because it's in the layouts directory. So the way this is footer as well, so this is the right spot. The way this repo works is Jekyll is going to take every single one of these pages and put it inside of this layout here. This is our like top level, and you see page title. So if we went to any page at the top of the page, we had titles defined, so it gets injected here, the value. So at the very bottom, we're defining our footer. So let's say we're gonna just throw it at the end here. Looks like this is what we do for social media. I'm just gonna make another one. We gotta come up with a Slack URL, which we'll come up with in a minute. Target blank would make it open in a new tab. No opener is to, for those who aren't familiar, that makes it so that when you land on another page, they don't have some JavaScript available and some, I think, headers available, so they can't check where that link came from. It also makes the links load faster because there's less stuff in that payload then. Okay, and then instead of the YouTube, this is going to be Slack, Code Connector Slack. And then we got to look up Font Awesome. I'm going to guess that Font Awesome works this. If I just put Slack there, it would come up with it. But if not, we'll look that one up. We got to come up with the URL as well. So maybe let's go back to our Slack page. This is not our Slack page. We're going to grab the URL as well.
I think we got the URL inside the chat.
Oh, somebody posted to Zoom?
Right. No, yeah, to the Zoom chat. So you got.
Thanks. Grab it from there. All right, JC. Somebody posted it. JC posted for me. Thank you. So that saves me some time. I'm going to post that here. We're not going to worry about code style right now. We're just going to keep that line pretty long. Hit save on that one. Now, VS Code lets me commit it here. We could do that from the terminal or whatever. I'm going to say, since we do have an issue, I'm going to reference that one. number 59. So let's see. We're going to add Slack icon and link to the footer. Partially addresses number 59. So cool thing about GitHub is it will, if you do like hash 59, it will assume you're referring to this issue, and pull requests and issues have numbers, and so you can do hash
I have a
59.
question on that.
Yeah.
Something that I was facing, because I did a fork and PR on the one that we looked at earlier. If you put a reference to number 59 on your fork, will it directly reference back to the original repo?
It will. So you're saying like if I don't push this to Code Connector and I push it to my repo, when I make the pull request, it's going to read that data. So then when you get that merged, it's going to be in the history of the upstream repository.
But it won't be in my fork. It won't show that reference.
I think it shows up when you, it might when you look at the commit, but if you're looking in the context of a pull request, I think GitHub correctly matches it with where you're pull requesting to. Yeah, I have to double check because then you also need the issues on that repo. I don't know if we could test that. We could make issues on both repos and try pound one and see in which context. But I think it's smart enough to match it where you're trying to
Maybe
go.
we try that outside the meeting and we can roll that.
It's a good idea. Okay, so yeah, just to finish that point though, that if I had said fixes, then when this gets merged, GitHub is going to automatically close issue number 59 because that's like a keyword that they're going to hone in on. If I say partially addresses, it might, because addresses 59, but we're going to see. You can also just say reference 59, and that way in GitHub, you'll actually have some kind of reference. It'll say on the issue that, hey, there's a pull request that's related to this issue. So if people go and continue the conversation, they know something was done. All right, so I'm going to commit that. And
You have a question on that? Is that default action on GitHub, or you have to enable something for it to see the words in the commits?
yeah, that's actually default. So let's see if we have any examples here. Actually, let's go to Code Connector, Python walkthrough. So Corey's open pull request did this, where he said, as per number 1. And so that's a hyperlink. He didn't have to do anything special there. And it's referencing README number 1. And if you come here, it says he added a commit that referenced this. And it's because that commit includes as per number 1 in it. And so it's going to say it was mentioned in this issue. So you can easily kind of navigate between the two.
Yeah, and I guess while you've got all that crap that I did yesterday on the screen, just to say accidents happen and it doesn't know if something doesn't happen just right, don't worry about it. I messed up and pushed to the wrong repository twice and reverted twice before I pushed to my fork and did a PR properly.
I wasn't going to mention that, but since you bring it up, we can look. Yeah, absolutely. In this case, he's got access to both Code Connector and his personal. And so he wanted to get review, but pushed it to the wrong place. So there's a pull request open for something that he reverted a couple times. Yeah. When you're contributing to repositories like this, you usually want to fork it because you don't have access. So you create a fork. And since I didn't go through that, I'll show you that. So I don't think I have a fork of this one. You just go to the repository that you want to contribute to. And then on the right side, this is like a GitHub specific thing. It's going to create a copy. It's going to ask you, where do you want to put that copy? And you just say, you know, since I already forked it, it's going to say here. But yeah, it's going to create a copy, and it's going to know that this is a copy of something that's upstream hosted somewhere else. And then you can clone this one, and so that you never have to worry about it because you'll only have like one remote. You can always push your changes here. Git also allows you to push to multiple different places. It's kind of peer-to-peer. There's no like server and client. So you can have like a mesh of different remotes, they call it, that you can push to. So ideally you fork and then you clone here and then you push it back to your place. And then when you pull request over, that's how you get your changes inserted into something that you don't own. Yeah. So I will do that here. Just make sure.
Can you rebase that real quick now that you're 6 commits behind?
Am I? I'm 6 commit, or are you saying?
On that other one, what you just had open in browser,
Sure.
6 commits behind. So when you fork and you make changes and then you're behind, so that you don't have a big ugly merge commit where a bunch of things change that were from before, a rebase would go, okay, put this commit after those other ones, and it lets you handle that so that the history looks right.
Yeah. So let me push this up. We'll make the pull request, and then we'll take a look at that one. So in this case, I've got it committed. When I did git log latest commit, and the origin in this case is the code connector space. So I'm only 1 commit ahead. If I make a pull request, I should only see this commit is the one that's going to be different. So I can do git push. In this case, RJ is my fork. And then GitHub's nice enough to say, hey, if you want to create a pull request, just click here. So I'm going to do that. And it nicely takes the 2 lines that I put in the commit, since it was only 1 commit, and it puts that as the description in the title, which I'm fine with. And this line was a little long, but that's okay for now. And so it looks good. So I can open that pull request, and now I think I just got credit for a pull request today, but I won't count that one. We'll try and do some more this month. So yeah, this one's up, and people can start reviewing it, and feel free to go leave me comments. Please keep them constructive, because that's the spirit of this all. And as you said, I think I've got your Python. So like, you could say, I think if I just git push, okay, let's say that my fork is out of date. One thing that you can do is, sorry, I don't actually know let me just check. Okay, git remote -v. So if you type git remote -v, I've got 2 remotes. You can do, let's say you cloned it from your fork, but now your fork is out of date and it's starting to look messy. You can git remote add and then copy that thing from the code connector space like I showed you. You can go here and copy this, and you can add a second one. So I think you do git remote add, and you can give it a name like code connector, and then paste that in. Sorry, you'll want the whole thing. And then you'll have multiple different places that you can push and pull from. So that's how you get that mesh where you can kind of pull down from code connector, rebase, make sure it's what you want, push it up to your fork, then create the pull request and keep things up to date. So your local is really like a third place that is independent of what you find on GitHub and in your fork or that other place. So yeah, I want to pause there and not write any more code unless people have specific things, and maybe talk a little bit before we switch into breakout rooms and let others start to get coding and talking about ideas. Any comments before we do some breakouts?
One comment, just to make sure I got an understanding of how to do that. You make a fork from the original GitHub repo, and you clone from your fork to your computer. You make some changes, then you push that up to your fork, you make sure everything's working, and then you go back to the original repo and you make a pull request, or from your fork, you make a pull request, and GitHub will know that this pull request is going to the original repository.
Yeah, so the code flows. The code flow is kind of, let me try and restate it. So you start from Code Connector has this website, and you don't have a copy of it. You can clone it directly from Code Connector, but you probably don't have permission to create a branch on the Code Connector space. So you're going to need something within GitHub that you can push to, or else it's just on your local machine. So GitHub gives you this option called a fork, where you go in the UI of GitHub and you click the fork button, and it'll copy Code Connector onto, RJ Beers or JC Smiley / the website. And now you've got two copies on GitHub, one that you can push to and actually write access, and one that's read only. And then you cloned it, so you got a third one. So now you got this triangle to play with. And the code should go, you make changes locally, you push it to your fork on GitHub, and then you create pull requests from your fork to the main one, from where you can write to where you can only read, and then the person, the maintainer, or someone who has write access will have to hit that merge button for you. And then it's only when you get out of date that your local machine has to pull from the updated website, bring it down, and then push it back. But it should pretty much go in that circle or triangle there, in that order. Because unless you become like write access, like I guess JC, you have it a little bit more complicated because you own the Code Connector Chrome extension, so you can write to that repository. But if you keep it simple on yourself, just act like you can't and make a pull request, and then only hit the merge button. That'll keep it cleaner.
I have a question, kind of a follow-up on that, or sort of in that same vein. And it's even, like you're saying, the complications come when you have access to different places and the legalities around that, I guess. And so my question is, let's say that you forked a repo, and then since you've done that, they've changed the license.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes repositories are not all code, right? They might just be educational documents or tutorials, and it's kind of grown beyond just code, because it's a nice system to back up documents and other things. And so there was a time where there's a repository, and then you made a fork, and at that time there was no license on it. And so you've kept your local one, right? And you've changed your major changes, you've pushed them to that. And then since that time, you were pulling changes from the master, but now it's added a license that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a responsibility there? Do you have to adopt
There
their
is.
license? Do you stick with what you've got? I know this is not maybe on topic.
There's two big things here. The first thing is, if there's not a license on a repository, then it's closed source. You can see it, but you don't have any right to use any code that does not have a license that allows you, because, and I'm strictly speaking to US, assuming that everybody here is in the US. US copyright says, unless expressed otherwise, all intellectual property defaults to being closed ownership. Nobody else has rights to it. So even forking that, you don't have a legal right to fork that and own any bit of it unless there's a license. But if it was a license that you liked, and then it converted to a license that you weren't allowed to use it legally, at the moment that they changed the license, you have every right to that code as it existed before the license change under the old license.
That's true. Yeah, I was going to say that exact same thing. I'm no lawyer, but that's how it's supposed to be played, is that as soon as they change the license, that's like a new version being released. And so you can use that new version under a new license.
So here's the hard follow-up, right? So then was GitHub enabling, the stealing of that stuff when you could probably fork a repo with no license? Yeah.
There's probably a lawsuit about that, but yeah.
I know that, you put code somewhere in the public eye, right? So that opens you up, assuming you were the maintainer. If you put that code in a public repository, then you're going to have a little bit of a battle to start with, but the law is on your side, at least with GitHub, that you have that. I actually just wound up, I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's working on a video game right now. And we were talking about GitHub versus YouTube on intellectual property. And without taking this out a long discussion, YouTube, if I have a video up and you make a claim against me, you're in charge of the entire claim process, and you can prevent me from using my own property on YouTube. GitHub said if you open a claim against me on GitHub, GitHub closes down whatever I have that you claim is yours away from the public, and gives you, I think it's 2 weeks or 2 months, something like that, to begin a legal process against me, because GitHub is not going to accept responsibility for the entire process.
All right, I want to bring us back to almost breakout room time. So I think, Lawrence, we had a giveaway we want to do, and then maybe I'll give a quick intro on how we want to try breakouts.
Great. Yeah. And before we do the giveaway, you guys know me. I always like to take my picture for my social media. So Autumn, my social media manager, doesn't beat me up. So if you want your smiling grill on our socials, go ahead and cam up right quick. We're going to keep this as quick and painless as possible. It's always cute. See all y'all out there. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Got it. Appreciate that. And we're going to now do a giveaway. Let me move this out the way, see if I can share my screen real fast. Boom. Share. My computer is totally lagging. Hopefully you can see a little Wheel of Fortune looking thing up on your screens right now. Look on there. Make sure you can see your name. Let me shuffle up. Let me shuffle the deck. I'll throw a sad panda in there too. Does everybody see your name? Panda? Well, sad panda means nobody wins. Oh yeah, a couple people came in late. So we are I've been working really hard. We are a official JetBrains user group now, in addition to all the other partnerships we have. And so we get a free 1-year license to JetBrains IDE products to give away, for now, every month. So we're going to do the first one today, which is really exciting.
Is that all products or single product license?
I haven't dug into it that deeply, but I know it's free.
Okay.
Cool.
I think it's for all of them.
The first winner will come back and give us all
Hey, free is free. Also, you can get 3 months of one particular JetBrains product for just being signed on to Hacktoberfest.
Oh,
I'll
awesome.
send links out for that if people want.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just
so is everybody's name on there? I want to believe
got me
it.
3 months of WebStorm.
Cool. All right. Well, here we go. Whoop. Mudiaga Owajaya, congratulations. Wait, is he still here? Is he still here? Are you here?
I see him.
I see a face.
I see he's still
I
in.
don't see a face. What's wrong with my screen? Why is my screen all janky?
Yeah, he's.
I see a picture. It's a picture of his face.
There we go.
It's still a face.
No.
Hey, say something in the chat if you're really still here. Must be present.
Yeah,
Must be present. All right, good job. Hey, reach out to me on Slack. I'll give you the what you need to actually get all set up with JetBrains. Congratulations. Happy to give you that. And from there, actually what I did, RJ, because this will be our first time for breakout rooms, so I hope we don't completely break Slack, but I just did like an automatic feature and it just split everybody up about evenly, about 4 or 5 people in each room. You're in one room, RJ, so you can talk about hopefully code connector type stuff. Corey is in a room. I know you have a project or two, so Corey, I'm going to ask you at the very last minute to kind of lead your room and you guys just hack together, talk through any projects you have open source. And then JC, I got you in a room. So you, of course, we got the extension. And if all works well, I'm going to hit a button and you're all going to just like magically disperse. So this is the end of this part, and you're welcome to hang out in the next part as long as you want. This is kind of like a conference, hack together, talk through things. If you have questions, can I ask kind of the leader names that I pointed out? But beyond that, thank you.